Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another installment of The Brew. Many of our viewers are occult, pagan, and esoteric practitioners, energy workers, empaths, and healers. But what happens when healers are hurting? And what happens, especially as we move into this holiday season, when anxiety levels and a lot of pain for a lot of folks, both physical and emotional, increase? We're going to talk about that on tonight's program. We've got two incredible guests I think you're going to enjoy as we explore the concept of what happens when healers hurt. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. In less than 4 weeks or thereabouts, we are headed into the heart of the Yule season. And with Yuletide and all of the other winter holidays across 21 different spiritual traditions and religious traditions that celebrate their winter holidays around this time of year, for the average person, that could mean increased stress and anxiety. I just remembered, speaking of stress and anxiety, that I got to turn on the comments here. So these holidays can bring increased stress. They could bring financial worries, uncomfortable social situations, and they're often compounded by really extreme emotions like grief and loneliness, sadness, depression. And when you consider the added exposure to people who are involved in the esoteric and occult healing arts, especially those involved in psychic healing, empathic work, shamanic journeying, and things like that, this could be one hell of a time of year for folks. And we know that as those stressors increase in the body, cortisol levels go up. As the cortisol levels go up, that begins to manifest in the body as chronic pain, especially joint pain. And so tonight, our first guest that I'm going to bring up in the room here is somebody who has a great deal of experience in exploring and actually applying the use of a non-narcotic, in fact, drug-free approach to relieving physical pains. Bill Parravano has over 25 years of martial art and bodywork experience understanding movement and tension patterns that lead to physical pain in a really unique and insightful way. Bill believes that the nervous system holds the keys to the body's healing and bridges the gap between what we currently know and the infinite number of possibilities for your body and my body to heal in the realm of those limitless possibilities. This combination creates the shortest distance between a life riddled with pain and having to choose between a full life, a life that is unencumbered by drugs and the fog that accompany them, and a pain-free way of living in a fully expressed life without a reliance on those drugs. So I want to thank you, first of all, Bill, for being with us. And did I miss anything in my introduction to you? Can you hear me? Did you freeze up?
Yeah, it just cut out
Okay.
just for a second. Okay.
Did I miss
Hi.
anything in your introduction?
I didn't say anything. I was going to say thank you for having me here. I appreciate it very much, and I'm excited to share.
We're glad to have you here. So, we know, Bill, that the root of pain is often inflammation, and the newest, scientific research and things that we're seeing tells us that as the body, as pain increases in the body, and as we begin to experience some of those stressors that increase those cortisol levels, and we're not eating properly and things like that, people begin to develop pain. But there's other people that are watching who may just have chronic pain in general. Tell us about your approach. First of all, tell us, there's a fascinating story behind it. Tell us what led to your discovering this new way to allow the body to heal.
Well, it was the reluctant journey that I went on. In 1998 and 1999, I dislocated my left knee the first of 4 times. dislocated my left knee 4 times and ended up tearing the ligament in my left knee, the ACL, anterior cruciate ligament, and ended up having surgery and physical therapy, and was on the other side of that whole process and was a little disillusioned by what I thought my knee was going to feel like after I was completed with what the medical model had to offer. Looking back on it in hindsight, I realized that the doctors and the physical therapists did exactly what they said they were going to do. The doctor was going to repair the ligament. The physical therapy was there to strengthen the leg to get it within 80% of the strength of the other one. However, it wasn't taking into account how my knee was going to feel, the compensation patterns that my body was going to experience as a result of protecting from the knee, and essentially the effect on my nervous system and what that was going to look like for the moving forward in my life.
Okay, and so what did you discover in terms of first applying this to yourself?
In October of '99, I ended up in a workshop up in the Kentucky, Brandenburg, Kentucky area. And previous to my knee injury, I traveled and competed in judo pretty extensively. So now I had a lot of time on my hands where I wasn't doing judo and training and lifting weights and biking and running and all that. And I was starting to go to workshops. So I ended up in a workshop that was full of doctors, nurses, physical therapists, chiropractors. And there I am. I owned a computer company at the time. Show up in the class. The instructor goes, orthobionomy, an osteopathically based style of body work that was developed by a British osteopath who was also a judo instructor. And he took the principles of judo and applied it to an original osteopathic concept and developed an entire style of bodywork.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I must be in the right place, although it didn't feel like it at the time. And I did go up and ask the instructor, he's like, are you sure it's okay that I'm here? Because they were talking about anatomical parts like the scapula. And I was like, where's that? Where is that? And the instructor said, yeah, don't worry about it. You'll be just fine. And it really turned out to be a blessing in disguise because I had nothing to unlearn. I was just showing up, basically doing what I was told, which was create comfort in the body. And all of the other students who are medical professionals in some capacity were needing to unlearn a paradigm of what they were taught in school. All I was doing was tapping into what I know now is the neurological, the nervous system's capacity to let go of tension and stress from accidents, injuries, surgeries, traumas, whatever that is. And that was essentially been my last 21 years is really studying and learning the capacity that the nervous system has to release tension, heal the body, and set up the conditions so the body can really heal itself.
You know, and for those that are watching this that come from, I know that you yourself are a metaphysical practitioner, and those that are watching that come from various energy work, body work, occult and esoteric healing traditions, I want you to really think about what Bill's saying here, because when he says that we're setting up the conditions for the body to release that tension that it's storing, as practitioners of the healing arts and practitioners of magic in general, that's what we're doing when we work our craft. We are setting up the conditions to allow something new, something better, to restore balance to the way things should be. And so, I mean, that was the big reason why I asked Bill to be on the program tonight, along with our next guest too, who kind of fills in the complete picture. Because so often what I was seeing in the world, Bill, was people who um, decided that there was something wrong. They knew that that chronic pain wasn't normal, that inflammation, that inability to really live fully wasn't right. And so they did one of two things. They either went the physical therapy route, where they tried to almost at times force the movement without addressing what was going on in the rest of their body, or they just approached the what we're going to be talking about actually in the class tomorrow. They just approached the spiritual mind treatment piece, the affirmations, and let me change how I'm thinking, and sort of the Louise Hay approach to things, thinking that when we say if you change your thinking, you change your life, that's going to magically make the pain go away, and it's going to magically make the joints start moving, rather than taking a holistic approach. And I'm hearing that even in the joint piece itself, you're talking about actually, unblocking energy blockages, while at the same time creating an environment where the body can release that tension, release that trauma, release whatever that cause of that pain on the physical level is, so that they're able to do the healing work on the metaphysical level, or they're able to do but if we just think that putting a metaphysical band-aid on a physical condition is going to work the way that they tell you in absurd pop culture videos like The Secret, that's why people get frustrated. That's why it doesn't work. Once the ailment has manifest in your body physically, you need to address that pain. You need to address that lack of mobility, that lack of proper functioning, and release, as Bill's saying, if I'm hearing you correct, release the source of that trauma, create a comfortable place and space for that joint to be able to release. So I think what you're doing is absolutely incredible. And I'm going to check for 1 second to see if Patti is here, and then we'll swap places. I'll have Patti come in for a few minutes to talk just about her side of this, and then I'm going to bring you both in, if you don't mind, for us to see if there are any questions, or just to really kind of tie it up, because I'm really thrilled that you guys are like the full package. So before I do that, though, I had one more question relative to this segment. And if you're watching us and you have a question out there, if you're watching live, be sure to ask. And even if you're watching on the replay, I know that both Bill and Patti will be happy to answer any questions that you have on the replay as well in the comments. But Bill, what's your experience been now since you've been doing this? I mean, you've gotten to be known as the knee pain guru, and what have you seen applying this not just to your extraordinary recovery, but to the people that you're working with?
Well, the biggest piece that I've seen is that although knee pain is not all in a person's mind, the mind plays a huge role in the person's ability to heal the knee. Like, the mindset needs to be in a good place. The mind needs to be in a receptive place to look for the different cues that are required, demonstrated by the neurology that allows the body to be healing. So I completely agree with what you're saying. The spiritual band-aid that people put on it. It's like, well, if I say this mantra, or this, if I pray, or if I meditate, or do whatever that is, I try to bring it to this plane or this realm of understanding and use analogies so people can wrap their brain around it. It's like a car. You get a car that gets in an accident, the frame is crooked. If we park it in the garage and don't do anything, let it sit for a week, couple weeks, a month, 6 months, take it out of the garage, the frame's still bent. We could pray and think all we want that car's going to be straight again, but when we pull it out of the garage, it's still going to be bent. And that's what happens with the physical body when it's experiencing pain. Structure governs function. So if the structure isn't in alignment, then what ends up happening is we essentially have a crooked frame, and we're trying to do things from a place of a crooked frame, crooked foundation. It's going to be very difficult for the body to heal. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to slow it down, if not move it in the opposite direction.
That is absolutely awesome. I'm gonna bring you into the green room for a minute, but thank you because I could not have created a better segue than that analogy. So what we're going to talk about next is if the in that analogy, and I'm like entirely incapable of doing two things at once. How do I have to figure out how I get you into the green room? There we go. So in that analogy that you just heard, if you put that car with the crooked frame in the garage, and when you take it back out, no matter how much you thought and prayed and lit candles and burned incense, that car is still not going to function properly. Well, our next segment and our next guest is going to talk about We're going to talk about getting to the root of why you got in the accident in the first place, and that is because maybe you put water in the gas tank and screwed up the engine, which caused you to get into that accident. So let's see if she's able to be on. Patty, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Fantastic. Yes. Were you? I've actually never asked a guest this. Were you able to hear the show up until now?
I have been able to hear it, and
Fantastic.
I really apologize for this Mercury retrograde debacle of me not being able to come live.
Absolutely, no doubt.
We stood on our heads to try and get it to work, but no,
Hey,
no, she
the
doesn't want us
important
to.
the important part is there's two important parts to this, and the silver lining. One is that our shows get rebroadcast on Fridays on iTunes and Spotify as a podcast, so nobody's going to see any of us on the
Awesome.
podcast. So that's perfect. And the most important thing tonight, while I would love people to see that beautiful smile, and just that sense about you that I just think is beautiful all the way around, and you guys watching are going to see why without even seeing a picture on the screen. I would love to have that, but the most important thing is what you have to bring to the table in terms of this discussion. So we're going to talk about what happens when you put water in the gas tank and it caused that accident. We know that at the root of pain is often inflammation. And the newest scientific research tells us that the original suspicions of people like Dr. John Parkinson 200 years ago, who said there's got to be a connection between the neurological system and the endocrine system, inflammation and pain, and the body's so-called second brain. We just heard Bill talking about the fact that the mind plays a part in this, and most people imagine that your mind is in your brain. And what we know as metaphysical practitioners and wellness professionals, especially mental wellness professionals, is that the body has a second brain. That's the gut microbiome. And so, folks, let me just give you some background on our second guest. The invisible Patti Sinclair is she's going to teach me how to do that invisibility thing. But she is a professional spiritual intuitive and a channel. Her 20-year career includes guest speaking at the famed Lily Dale Assembly, Hay House Radio, CBS Radio, and countless TV appearances where she discusses her passion for the healing arts. Patty is passionate, if nothing else, about mental health advocacy and combines her spiritual work with cutting edge holistic wellness practices. She's been married to her childhood sweetheart for 33 years, who is not invisible. Um, and they have three grown children. They live in the foothills of Litchfield County in Connecticut. Um, like I said, Patty, I'm really grateful for you to be here. And as somebody who's herself an empath and somebody who works with healers and wellness professionals, you and I have both been involved in the mental wellness movement. But share with us a little bit of what you've seen in the field in terms of the benefits that come from recognizing that if somebody's got a physical issue, physical chronic pain, inflammation, or neurological issues, or if they've got things like depression and anxiety or uncontrolled grief or cognitive function, that becomes so much heavier at this time of year because we're taking on these energies that are going on all around us. You and I have come across something that really makes a huge difference. So talk a little bit about your experience in that area.
So, can you hear me just fine?
I can
All
perfectly.
right, perfect. So, my history, just very briefly, is that for, I hate to say this, it sounds insane, but for 40 years, I have struggled with clinical anxiety disorder. I was a test study at Yale New Haven Hospital in 1984. I had a psychiatrist tell me that I should carry around an asthma inhaler so that when I got a panic attack, I could leave the room and pretend that I was having an asthma attack.
Wow.
God bless. And so this went on chronically in my life for 40 years, and I have family members that have struggled with bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, trauma abuse, etc. And what I became incredibly frustrated with was that there was no doctor, whether functional medicine or Western medicine, holistic therapists, massage therapists. I went through my channel of all holistic healers. There wasn't anybody that was addressing what I've come upon in the past couple of years, particularly this past year, learning that if we don't have the microbiota in a healthy state in our gut, we're starting with this really scrambled space and no serotonin, which is our happy transmitter, none of the dopamine, nothing that makes the brain happy is getting released. So it's this trap, right, that you're in with no one telling you what you really should be doing. And so for many people that are listening, if you're like I was, you spend hundreds, if not more, of dollars going from store to store, from practitioner to practitioner, praying that you're going to find the right thing. And unfortunately, up until recently, as you well know, there hasn't been really anything altogether where someone could say, I have a solution for you, as opposed to just a band-aid. And what happens with so many healers is that we're always taking care of other people first and never prioritizing ourselves. And what you always have to remember, right, is that you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're a healer, and I imagine many healers are listening to us tonight, you've got to remember that as we walk forward in these different energy portals that we're coming into in the past 18 months, this is the time where we have to realize that the value of our own psyche, the value of our own emotional makeup, everything that we bring to the universe and we bring as our gifts to others to heal starts within us. And for so many healers, we're depleted all the time with anxiety and stressors. And as we walk into the holiday season, whatever your faith or um, your traditions are, generally, we're staying up too many hours, we're rushing, we're worried about finances, we're probably overindulging in things that we shouldn't be. And this all is going to help wreak havoc on this beautiful system that we have in the gut, right? And so once we start to do that, we're really behind the eight ball, which is why so often you hear holistic healers and Western healers talking about the crash that comes to the psyche in the January and February months every calendar year, because people have just destroyed themselves through the holiday season. And I'm incredibly passionate to tell people that you don't have to suffer the way you've been suffering, and you don't have to suffer thinking you're alone. You're not alone, and we have solutions for you. The gut brain science is so phenomenal, and you know what, it just makes perfect sense when you sit down and think about how destroyed your gut will feel when you're nervous, or even when you're excited and you get that butterfly, almost nauseous, happy feeling. It's the same way when we hit these times that are just overwhelming. And I think the important piece to remember is that as healers, what we want to bring to this world and what we want to bring to those that we're serving and those that count on us for support and guidance is that this holiday season, whatever your faith, it's not about the things, right? It's about the time that we spend with one another. And the best way we can bring our best selves is if we're feeling well. And we often are just not paying attention to what really matters. And so I hope you can hear the smile and the excitement in my voice, because I know you guys can't see me. But when I tell you I'm shouting this from the rooftops that I have been medication free now for 10 months for the first time in 35 years. And it still makes me choke up because I was also an irritable bowel sufferer, as well as leaky gut. And I'm off all medications and I'm living my life without having to worry for the very first time ever. It doesn't mean that there aren't dips and swirls, there always will be, but I'm living the life that I believe Creator meant for me to live, and I'm so appreciative of this format to just even be able to talk it out and let people know that we have solutions for them.
Wow, all I can say is wow. That is stunning, and between the two of you, stories like that are why we do a program like this. I hope that those that are watching, I see that we don't have any comments in the comment area, and I can understand why, because you guys really were thorough. But I hope, and I want to give both of you a chance to speak directly to those who are walking on a spiritual path, who might think one of a couple things. One, I know that a lot of times we talk to people who say, because I'm a healer, I really hesitate to let people know how much pain I'm in emotionally, physically, how achy I am, and they've commented to me that it's refreshing to hear people like me get up and say that until I started doing this, I had to have somebody help pull me out of bed every morning because of the pain from the Parkinson's, and how using things like trauma release exercises and things like that it's made a big difference in my life. Well, if you're watching this, I want you to understand. Remember what Patti just said, that you've got to drink as you pour, and that's something that's personally very important to me, because my guru Majaya Sati Bhagavati used to say, you got to drink as you pour, you got to drink as you pour, constantly trying to pound it into my head to take care of me first. And what I would say for the end of our program tonight, aside from thanking both of you for sharing these two critical pieces to what I think it takes to be a really full healer in the world, is that the best gift you or I or any of us can give to one another and to our clients as healers is to become the very best version of ourselves that we can. And that means addressing the physical pains that you have, and knowing that there's a way through this technique that Bill is teaching others that you can experience that pain relief without medicating. And as Patti explained, the technique that we use for creating that environment in which that inflammation is going to go down, as you use Bill's technique to get the mobility going, we're going to help release the anxiety, the inflammation, the cortisol levels drop, the dopamine and serotonin levels increase. All of this is clinically proven, but none of it happens until you make the decisions to start taking better care of yourselves. And so I wanted to do this broadcast just as we're getting ready to go into that period, because I know that in a week or 2 weeks, people are going to that celebrate the holidays in November are going to be getting together with families, and particularly at a time when we live in a nation that is so divided along so many lines. That means a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, agita at the dining room table, avoiding the crazy aunt or uncle that's going to have a couple glasses of wine and then start to, and then come out to the dining room table with a pillowcase on their head. I want to give each one of you a chance to say, what you feel. I mean, you're both here because you have a message, and Patti, you just expressed that message perfectly. But I'll have you. You'll take us out tonight by encapsulating the essence of that message in a sentence or two. Bill, we'll start with you. If you could speak to those healers out there, not just the viewers, the normal viewers who, let's face it, nobody watches my show that's normal. We'll say the abnormal viewers who are dealing with physical pain, but especially to the healers. What would you say at this, as we go into this really stressful time of year, about being able to move and let them know how they can get a hold of you. Oh,
Oh,
wait a minute. I
here I
just
am.
screwed up. Here we go. There you go.
Well, we teach what we need to learn most. That's the big thing. So if you look at what you specialize in, that's usually an indicator of what you need to work on. So there's that piece that it's our work or our life's work is the mirror reflection back to us as to what is right there in front of us to be honed and worked on and nurtured and cultivated in a way that allows us to continue to grow. So when you're around family, it I think it hones our skills even more.
Right on. And
So
now you guys know the secret to why I'm so passionate about mental health issues, because we teach what we need to work on the most. Patti, I'm going to have you go ahead and close us out tonight, because that message was just so powerful before, and I can't get enough of it.
You know, my prayer is for everyone listening that you realize you have so much more intuition than you give yourself credit for. And that dials back to the passion that Gian Michael and I have together about teaching people to trust their gut from the inside out, understanding that science supports your intuition, that your gut is the center of the spirit and the soul. And so as we walk forward into these beautiful holiday season, my prayer for all of you is that you'll trust your gut to find ways to help yourself to live the most abundant life that you possibly can and the one that Creator intended for you. And I wish you all a very, very blessed holiday season. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you both for being here, and thank all of you for watching tonight. I just want to just point out something that we just heard, and that is that when you have that feeling in your gut, that feeling that something that you just heard resonated, and I know there is no way that anybody with an open mind could listen to either one of our guests tonight and not have had that resonance, because what they're talking about is real, and it's a bona fide science that they bring to the table. So if you felt that stirring in your butt, in your butt, in your gut, at any point, I am not going to hear the end of that one. I could just see the comments coming in now. If you felt that resonance deep within you, then you know that was just getting me even deeper. Then you know you need to reach out. You need to reach out to us, and I can put you in touch with these folks or they'll share this on their own social media networks, for you to reach out and begin to take that next step to listen to that inner voice, and know that just as we can laugh at every one of these shows, at every fuck up that I do, you're going to have the opportunity to laugh again where there's pain, because it is there to be a teacher, and so it's when they say when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So if that pain, if that depression, if that anxiety, is to serve a purpose, maybe, just maybe, tonight, what you heard on this program is the next step for you to be able to start this new year with a new you. So as we say at the end of every one of our programs, I encourage each one of you to stay in the moment, because that is where the power is. Bring gratitude to that moment for everything that you've got in your life. And that includes the pain and the anxiety and depression, because that awareness, that gratitude itself opens the door for the answers. And you might just have heard the answers on our program tonight. But always, always remember, the best is yet to come. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a fantastic week.